I was sipping coffee from my father's old brown mug the morning everything changed. The air was quiet, except for the soft hum from the cedar trees that lined the path to my porch. I thought it was going to be a normal day. But the HOA proved otherwise. A bright orange notice was taped to the corner of my mailbox. Bold letters screamed at me the moment I stepped outside. It wasn't even the color that bothered me. It was the tone. Unauthorized construction. Immediate action required. I stared at it, wondering if they'd confused me with someone else, but they hadn't, because the next line spelled my name in thick black print. I had poured my own driveway just 2 weeks earlier. Nothing fancy. Just a solid concrete path so my mother's wheelchair wouldn't nearly tip over like it used to on the uneven gravel. It was supposed to be a small improvement, a practical one. Something a man does for the people he loves. The HOA didn't see it that way. By the time I finished reading the notice, my heart was beating harder than it should have. The letter claimed I owed a $300 fine and had ignored previous warnings. There were no previous warnings. Not one. I knew it, and they knew it. But I also knew that once an HOA decided you were a target, they grabbed on like a terrier with a rope. I walked back to the porch and reread the notice. My mother rolled out behind me, her blanket tucked around her legs. "What happened?" she asked. "They're trying to find me for the driveway," I said. Trying to keep my voice calm, she frowned the way she used to when I broke something as a kid. "But we're not part of the HOA." That's what I thought. The truth was simple. My land predated the HOA my grandfather bought. Long before houses filled the hillside and long before someone slapped a homeowners association sign at the end of the road. Our property had always been separate, but as development grew, it ended up surrounded on 3 sides, and apparently now they wanted all 4. I went back inside to check my documents. Deed from 1986. Survey map. County records. Every piece of paper acknowledged that my little strip of earth stood alone. No HOA, no rules. No architectural committee. No approval needed for anything, but none of that mattered to them. Around noon, I heard footsteps on gravel. A woman in a navy blazer and large sunglasses walked right up to my porch. She didn't knock. She didn't smile. She just pointed her clipboard toward the concrete driveway like she was identifying a crime scene, Mr. Clark. She asked, "Yes, I'm Melanie, HOA president." She said president the way people say doctor or judge, like she expected me to salute. "You're not my president," I replied before I could stop myself. Her mouth tightened. "Regardless, your construction violates Section 4B of Community Standards. You were required to submit an application before any exterior modification." "This isn't the community," I said. "Your lot is within the jurisdictional outline." "Oh," I said, walking down the steps and standing a little too close. "No, it isn't." She didn't back away. She simply slid a paper from her folder and held it up as if it were holy scripture. It was a map the boundaries of her HOA, but someone had drawn a bold marker line around my property. Even though it didn't match the official county lines I'd seen my whole life. "This isn't accurate," I said. "It was approved in a 2020 membership vote," she replied. "A vote doesn't override a deed." She clicked her pen. "Ignoring this fine will result in additional penalties. I'd advise resolving this quickly." My stomach tightened. Anger simmered in a slow boil, rising from somewhere deep. "My mother needs that driveway," I said. "Ambulances couldn't even get here last time it rained." "That doesn't exempt you from community approval." I took a breath, a long one, and stepped back. Losing my temper wasn't going to help. "I'm not paying the fine," I said. Her lips curled in a thin smile. "Then I suppose we'll escalate." She turned and walked off as if she'd just sentenced me. I watched her leave. The back of her blazer disappearing between fences painted the same dull beige. Something in my gut told me this was just the beginning. That night, I sat with my mother on the porch. The sky was fading to purple, the kind of evening my father used to call a quiet blessing. But it didn't feel peaceful. Not anymore. They'll push, my mother said softly, almost reading my thoughts. I know. You going to let them? She asked. I took a slow sip from my father's old mug. The ceramic was warm, solid, familiar. No, I said. I'm not. I didn't know what was coming. Not yet. 3 mornings later, I stepped outside to find a metal barricade planted across the entrance. My driveway bolted, chained, padlocked. A sign hung from the middle. Property blocked, HOA authorized for a moment. All I could do was stare. They had taken what was already mine and tried to cage it. Our fight had begun. The first thing I felt wasn't anger, it was disbelief. A barricade across my own driveway. My truck on the wrong side. My mother trapped on the porch unless I rolled her wheelchair through the grass and around the house. Whoever installed it had come during the night. Fresh concrete dust still coated the edges of the posts. They worked fast and quiet, like they were afraid I might catch them. I stood there, barefoot, holding my coffee, watching the morning sun reflect off cold steel. The chain was thick. The kind used for locking up machinery on construction sites. No way bolt cutters would get through it without a fight. My chest tightened. This is insane, I muttered aloud. My mother wheeled out onto the porch, her robe draped around her shoulders. She followed my gaze. Oh my God. I'll fix it, I said. But even as I spoke, the weight of it pressed on me. It felt like someone had reached into my chest and twisted. The HOA didn't just want compliance, they wanted control. The phone call started by noon. I called their office. The secretary put me on hold and came back with a rehearsed line. Removal of the barricade requires payment of the outstanding fine and submission of architectural review documents. This is illegal, I told her. You blocked emergency access. The HOA is within its authority, she insisted. What authority? My voice cracked louder than I intended. My property predates your HOA by over 30 years. She hesitated, just a fraction, then continued with the same flat, memorized cadence. Any disputes must be addressed through the board. I hung up next. I called the county permit office. They checked their records. No permit filed by the HOA, the clerk said. Nothing authorizing installation of a barricade, so they put it up illegally? He sighed. I can't comment, but I'd recommend documenting everything. I already had my phone out. I took pictures from every angle, crouched to photograph the fresh cement, measured distances. Even recorded a video describing the situation. It wasn't anger driving me. Not yet. It was survival instinct, the same instinct that kept me calm when my mother had her stroke last year. By evening, my neighbor across the street came over. Tall guy, usually friendly, liked talking about football, kept glancing toward the barricade like it was radioactive. Rough morning, huh? He said. That's one way to put it. Why didn't you just ask the HOA before building? He asked. I stared at him. Because I'm not in the HOA. He shifted awkwardly. Well, I mean, everyone around here kind of follows the same rules. That doesn't make them my rules. He nodded, but not convincingly. He kept his eyes down. People were already choosing sides or too scared to pick one. Before leaving, he lowered his voice. They said you ignored multiple warnings. That's a lie. He looked like he wanted to believe me, but rumor travels faster than truth. That night, my mother and I ate dinner in silence. She watched the barricade through the window. It feels like a prison gate, she whispered. I swallowed hard. I know. She turned toward me. Your grandfather would have burned that thing down. He also taught me to use my head before my fists. Then use it, she said. But don't back down. Sleep didn't come easy. I stayed up researching HOA law, squinting at cases on my laptop screen. Turns out HOA's overreaching wasn't rare. Some got away with it simply because homeowners didn't fight back. But others fought. It won. I read a case about a man in Denver whose property also predated the HOA. They tried forcing him to tear down his shed. He sued. Judge ruled in his favor. Another in Florida. Another in Texas. Same outcome every time. If the land existed before the HOA had no authority. I clicked my flashlight on and found my deed in the fireproof box beside my bed. 1986. Not even a hint of HOA jurisdiction? I placed it beside my grandfather's folded flag, the one he left me when he passed, by morning. I had a plan. I called a lawyer I knew from an old community project. Practical man, sharp, quiet, dangerous in a courtroom. He asked me to bring everything I had. I spent the day gathering documents, the original survey, county GIS printouts, permit approvals for the driveway, photos of the barricade, screenshots of HOA letters, even a voicemail from the secretary. When I arrived at his office, he spent an hour reviewing it all. Then he set the papers down and leaned back. "You've got them," he said. "This is textbook overreach. I know you're not part of the HOA. They're hoping you'll fold." "I'm not folding." He nodded. "Good, then we go after them legally. But brace yourself. They won't back down easily." What do we start with? First, a formal demand to remove the barricade, then a restraining order for emergency access. Then we sue. I exhaled deeply, half relief, half dread. Back home, the sun was setting. My mother waited on the porch. "Well," she asked. "We fight," I said simply. A small smile touched her lips. "Good." She placed her hand on mine. They picked the wrong family. For the first time since the orange notice showed up, I felt something other than fear. I felt resolve. The court hearing for emergency barricade removal was set 2 weeks later. Long enough for frustration to boil, but short enough for me to keep pushing. During those 2 weeks, the HOA ramped up their pressure campaign. A post appeared on the neighborhood Facebook group. "Homeowner refuses basic standards, threatens property values." No name. But my driveway was right there in the picture by the end of the day. Comments piled up, "He should just follow the rules. Some people think they're special. Maybe the barricade will teach him." I read every word even when I shouldn't have. My mother saw them too. One afternoon I found her crying softly. "They act like we don't belong here," she said. I knelt beside her. We belonged here long before they did. But the isolation was real. Neighbors who used to wave stopped waving. People walked faster past our house. A few parents pulled their kids to the opposite sidewalk when passing our driveway. The HOA wanted me cornered. Wanted me embarrassed. Wanted me exhausted enough to pay the fine. They didn't understand the kind of stubborn this land had bred into me. The morning of the hearing came quicker than expected. My lawyer met me outside the courthouse. "Stay calm," he said. "Let the evidence talk." Inside, the HOA's attorney tried arguing the barricade didn't block access. My lawyer cut him down with one line. "Can his mother in a wheelchair get through it?" Silence. The judge didn't waste time. The barricade is to be removed within 72 hours. 3 days later, sparks flew as workers cut through the chain. The metal fell to the ground with a dull thud. For the first time in weeks, I had a clear line from the road to my home. My mother watched from the porch, smiling like she was watching a sunrise. But the battle wasn't over. The main lawsuit remained the one challenging their authority entirely. During preparation, my lawyer discovered something bigger. 2 previous homeowners had been pressured into settlements over similar boundary disputes. It wasn't an accident. It was a pattern. This HOA expanded their borders on paper without legal right, then bullied isolated homeowners into compliance. I wasn't the first, but I was going to be the last. On the day of the trial, I wore the same gray suit I'd worn at my father's funeral. My hands shook until I wrapped them around my coffee mug in the truck. Breathing slow, inside the courtroom the HOA had 2 lawyers. One old, one young. Both polished. Both confident, both wrong. My lawyer opened with simplicity. "Your Honor, the plaintiff owns land that predates the HOA by 33 years. The HOA knowingly falsified its boundary map. They blocked his driveway illegally. And they defamed him online, placed my deed on the screen. April 1986, he said, long before this HOA existed. He placed the county map beside the HOA's fake map. Even the judge raised an eyebrow at the discrepancy. Then came the witnesses. My elderly neighbor, the county clerk, the contractor who built the driveway, each one calm, direct, unshakable. Finally, the president herself sat at the stand. My lawyer asked, "Did you receive a copy of Mr. Clark's deed stating he was not within the HOA?" "Yes." "Did you receive a warning from your own secretary that his property wasn't within HOA boundaries?" She hesitated. "Yes." "And did you proceed with enforcement anyway?" Silence. "Yes," she finally said. The courtroom shifted, a quiet inhale of collective realization. By mid-afternoon, the judge returned with his ruling. "I find in favor of the plaintiff on all counts." The words hit me in the chest like a release valve opening. The HOA had no jurisdiction. The barricade was unlawful. The defamatory posts contributed to reputational damage. The HOA is ordered to pay $15,000 in damages, remove remaining barricade structures within 30 days, and post public retractions in the same online forums. The gavel fell. I didn't cheer. I didn't smirk. I just breathed. Outside, my lawyer clapped my shoulder. "You did good." I drove home slow, enjoying the smooth hum of my tires over the driveway I built with my own hands. My mother waited on the porch, watching my truck roll up without obstruction. She didn't ask how it went. She already knew. Weeks later, neighbors began waving again. Some even apologized. The public retraction worked its way through the community like a quiet confession. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the royal poinciana saplings cast long shadows across the driveway, I stood at the entrance where the barricade once tried to cage my life hand, ran my hand through the grass that had grown. Over the disturbed earth, you couldn't tell anything had ever been there, but I remembered, and I knew one thing for certain: freedom isn't loud. It's steady and worth fighting for.